Not just an incident, how the Lemon Grove case challenged school segregation. In the early 20th century, the struggle for civil rights in the United States was a battleground, marked by incidents that challenged the status quo of racial segregation. But before cases like Brown versus Board of Education and the Civil Rights Movement, the Lemon Grove incident was a pivotal moment. The early 1930s in particular were a dangerous time for immigrants and people of different races. It was the height of the Great Depression, and government and public sentiment against immigrants was severe. Segregation and discrimination were deeply entrenched in many aspects of society. Furthermore, due to the 1896 Supreme Court landmark case, Plessy v. Ferguson, which ruled that segregation was legal if facilities were separate but equal, many schools used the ruling to justify segregated schools. On top of this, California had passed laws that gave school districts the power to establish separate schools for Indian children and children of Chinese, Japanese, and Mongolian ancestry. Even where these laws were not instituted, school districts often segregated students, claiming that it was to teach them at a more suitable pace and assimilate them to American language and culture, a process called Americanization.
At the time, Mexican Americans were considered white under the law, meaning that they could not legally be segregated. Despite this, the Lemon Grove School Board decided, on January 5th of 1931, after winter break, to turn away Mexican students from the Lemon Grove Grammar School and send them to a separate school. Lemon Grove had a large Mexican immigrant population due to its proximity to the Mexican-American border. As its name suggests, most of the Mexican population in Lemon Grove grew and picked citrus for a living. However, the Mexican-American and white populations lived in separate neighborhoods, and the town's only school was located in the white neighborhoods.
The school board decided to segregate Mexican-American students, claiming that it would help them learn at a different pace and that the new school would be much closer to the Mexican neighborhoods. At the time, this was a common practice. Over 80% of districts in the United States had special Americanization schools. Outraged by this decision, the Mexican-American community in Lemon Grove decided to protest. The Mexican students refused to attend school at the new building called the Olive Street School, which only had 2 rooms and 2 teachers for all 75 students across kindergarten to 8th grade. The students at the time said that it wasn't a school, it was an old building. Everyone called it La Caballeriza, the barn. This was a bold move. Since the Great Depression was in full swing at this point, many wanted to deport immigrants to ensure jobs for American citizens. In fact, 1931 is considered to be the peak of government-sponsored programs for Mexican repatriation, or the deportation of Mexican immigrants. It is estimated that 1.8 million Mexican immigrant workers, like those in Lemon Grove, were deported. By openly resisting the school board's plan, they were at risk of being punished and deported. During the Lemon Grove incident, one Mexican family was actually deported.
There was one family that was deported, and that was Ruiz.
72 out of the 75 Mexican-American students boycotted the school with their parents' support. Since there were only about 170 total students in the entire school, the school district, which received funding based on attendance, was forced to take note of their actions. Even before any official or legal response from the parents, there was opposition to this boycott. On January 19th, only 2 weeks after the beginning of the boycott, Governor George Bliss introduced the Bliss Bill, which proposed the legal segregation of Mexicans, even those born in the United States, to California law. This bill managed to pass the state assembly, the first step in writing state legislature.
The Mexican community needed to fundraise and spread awareness to fight the injustices taken by the school board. Dr. Robert Alvarez, the son of the plaintiff of the case, Roberto Alvarez, describes that the families through the Comité de Vecinos de Lemon Grove, the Lemon Grove Neighbors Committee, wrote to several newspapers, one of which was La Opinión, the largest Spanish-speaking newspaper in the country at the time. On January 25, 1931, La Opinión published an article on the Lemon Grove incident called No admiten a los niños mexicanos, Mexican children refused admission. With support from La Opinión, the committee was able to cover the financial costs associated with going to court. Additionally, this newspaper feature helped spread awareness about the unfair treatment of the Mexican-American students in Lemon Grove. The Mexican government also took an interest in the case. The Mexican consul of San Diego, Enrique Ferreira, aided the community in Lemon Grove.
My sense is that they went on their own to the Mexican consulate to get help.
Although Ferreira was unable to directly intervene, he arranged for attorneys Fred Noon and A.C. Brinkley to assist in their case in the Superior Court of California.
On February 13, 1931, the Mexican-American parents took legal action against the Lemon Grove School Board. The main arguments submitted by the school board were that the Mexican students were not proficient enough in English and needed special attention, that the new school was large enough for all the students, and that the school was built as an Americanization school, not one based on segregation. On the other hand, the Mexican community argued that the segregation constituted racial segregation and that almost all of the students were US citizens who knew English well. Additionally, they stated that the school board's rationale for creating a separate school was based on inaccurate information about the learning capabilities of the Mexican students. In fact, one student could not speak Spanish but was still sent to the new school.
Carlos Red, when he only spoke English. He never spoke Spanish.
They also chose a student, Roberto Alvarez, who was 12 years old at the time, to be the plaintiff, as his command over English as well as his academic record refuted the school board's argument that the Mexican students needed additional help with the language. Similar cases had previously been filed, such as Del Rio Independent School District versus Salvatierra in 1930. However, on October 29th, that case was voided in the Texas Supreme Court, meaning that the segregation in the schools would be allowed to continue in Texas.
On March 30th, 1931, Judge Cloud Chambers ruled in favor of Alvarez and the Mexican-American students, stating, "To separate all the Mexicans in one group can only be done by infringing the laws of the state of California, and I do not blame the Mexican children because a few of them are behind in schoolwork for the segregation."
Despite being able to contest the decision to higher courts, the school board ultimately decided not to appeal at all. This could have been for a number of reasons, including lack of support or financial reasons.
The integration proceeded smoothly, with surprisingly little resistance from both parents and students. The Mexican students were told to be proud of their victory and be humble.
My father and others talked about how the kids were always friendly. You know, it was just one group of parents that school board and a few others that were really trying to segregate the kids.
Although the case could not serve as a precedent for other court cases, as the school board did not decide to appeal the higher courts, and the case was local to the small town of Lemon Grove, the Lemon Grove case nevertheless signaled a turning point in the legal and public views of school segregation and the unity of minorities in America. The Lemon Grove incident is recognized as one of the first successful school desegregation cases, thus representing a turning point in U.S. history. The school board had expected the Mexican Americans to peacefully and docilely accept the new school. Instead, the students and parents worked together, exercising their legal rights, and were able to successfully fight the injustices and gain better educational opportunities. News of the Lemon Grove case was able to spread to other towns near Lemon Grove, such as Oceanside, where its success was praised.
Following the Lemon Grove case, there was a gradual shift in public opinion regarding segregation. The Bliss Bill, despite being approved in state assembly, ultimately failed to pass on April 16th of the same year. In 1947, the case of Mendez versus Westminster declared that the segregation of Mexican Americans in schools was unconstitutional, paving the way for the 1954 landmark case Brown versus Board of Education, which finally ended school segregation across the United States. The legacy of the Lemon Grove incident is visible in the strides made towards equal educational opportunities for all. The case is remembered not only for being the first legal victory of its kind, but also for the unity and resilience shown by the Mexican American community in the face of adversity. The Lemon Grove case is a testimony to the Mexican community's rights and a push for access to fair and equal education for students of color across the nation, shaping the diversity we see in our schools today. Descendants of those involved in the Lemon Grove school desegregation case continue to share their stories like Dr. Alvarez, ensuring that the lessons learned from this historic event are passed down through generations.
You know, once people started learning about the case, they really took ownership of it, because it was really my generation that, and we didn't know about it.
A vibrant series of murals by artist Mario Chacon in collaboration with Dr. Alvarez honors the impact of the Lemon Grove incident, which can be found in an alleyway in Lemon Grove.
When we had the mural celebration, it was really amazing because so many people came out to it. And I felt like the community had actually, it was the first time that, that the community, came face to face with this.
The mural still stands strong today as a reminder and commemoration of the brave actions of the Mexican American community in Lemon Grove.